Good morning. So we are, it is storm day, and so those are the things that we're going to continue to watch. I was on the phone with Governor Scott last night and told him South Carolina was praying for Florida. I was on the phone with Governor McCrory this morning as we were talking about things, and so many of the governors, whether it's Governor Haslam from Tennessee, Governor Hogan, Governor Pence, all of them have called in and offered resources and assistance, and so I want to thank everybody from that standpoint. Before we begin, I think it's important that you get the latest update that we have and the information that we all talked about this morning in our meeting, and so I'm going to turn it over to who I will say for the last time, John Quagliarello, who I will now refer to as Rockstar John.
Thank you, Governor. Well, as of 11 o'clock this morning, there's now a hurricane warning in effect for the entire coast of South Carolina, in addition to a storm surge warning in effect for the entire coast of South Carolina. Matthew is still a Category 3 hurricane with winds of 120 miles per hour, and it's currently brushing the east coast of Florida. The latest track from the National Hurricane Center has shifted a little bit closer to the South Carolina coast and a little bit farther north, closer to the Myrtle Beach area as well, so that's some cause for concern. The storm will start working up toward the South Carolina coast tonight. It's expected to move just along, potentially even making landfall somewhere along the South Carolina coast sometime during the day tomorrow, and then start moving away later tomorrow night. So given this track, we have significant concerns in terms of impacts to the state. I think one of the greatest impacts would be the threat for storm surge. Right now, we're looking at the potential for disastrous and life-threatening storm surge inundation along the coast. It's especially true for the central and southern part of the coast, down, across Charleston, down near Beaufort. In a worst-case scenario, if this storm makes landfall, storm surge inundation, so that's how high the water will get above normally dry ground, could be over 8 feet. That is a lot of water. The storm surge is not going to just be at the coast. The storm surge can extend miles inland. So it doesn't matter that you don't have a beachfront home. You could be impacted by the storm surge well inland. You need to be aware of that. In addition, we expect significant damage to coastal structures due to the combination of very high inundation, battering waves, and high tides. Some of the more vulnerable areas, we have Petoskey Island, Hilton Head Island, Hunting Island, Folly Beach, Wild Dunes, Edisto Beach, even places like Daniel Island could all be impacted by the storm surge. Roads in and out of barrier islands will become impassable due to the surge. If you don't evacuate now, you will likely become stranded. In addition to the surge threat, heavy rainfall is going to be an issue. For coastal areas, as much as 8 to 14 inches of rainfall is expected, and even as you head in toward the Midlands, we still could see 3 to 6 inches of rain. Because of that, a flash flood watch is in effect, pretty much from Rock Hill down through Aiken and all points east of there. So heavy rainfall is another concern for us that could result in flash flooding. You take a place like downtown Charleston, where you have not only the storm surge coming in, and now you have that heavy rainfall, and we're looking at the potential for deadly flooding on the Charleston Peninsula. We also want to mention the threat of winds. Now with this closer track, we could see sustained hurricane force winds along the coast. That's going to bring extensive damage to trees. We'll see some structural damage to homes. In addition, even if you live inland, the stronger winds will pose issues to trees, but also to people living in mobile homes, so please be aware of that. And given those strong winds and the likely damage that's to occur, we should expect widespread and potentially long-lasting power outages. So again, we just urge you, if you're in an evacuation zone and have not evacuated, now is the time to do so, and we please urge you to move inland if you can. Thank you.
So you've now heard what we discussed this morning, which is the storm, as we hoped it would relieve a little bit of the situation. I think we are seeing that it is getting worse, and so we are looking at major storm surges. We're looking at major winds. We are looking at wet grounds, which could be flood-like, like what we saw last year. And when you have that, you have a lot of falling trees. So there is nothing safe about what's getting ready to happen. This is the last time you will hear my voice when I am asking you to evacuate. We need everybody to consider evacuating it and really take this very seriously. I want to tell you some updates on what we've got going on. As of 9:20, Director Smith and his team closed access to the reverted roads, and so you'll start to see The lanes of I-26 return to normal around midday. They are still gonna be manning the traffic points until it gets dangerous, and then at some point, we're gonna have to get all of our first responders and crews off the road so that they can seek shelter as well. We have 712 troopers on the road, 2,700 DOT maintenance crew members that are ready to go, thousands of guardsmen that are on the ground, but also getting ready to be deployed during the search and rescue situation. The number who have evacuated as of this morning are now at 310,000, which is up from 280,000 in my report yesterday afternoon. What we want to remind people is local bus operations are still moving to shelters. So if you are not going to evacuate upstate, at least go to a shelter. At least go to those areas where we know that we can have a safe, comfortable place for you to have food and water, and that we can make sure that we've got generators and something where you will feel informed and know what's going on. Many shelters have plenty of room, so that's what we want to see, is people at least taking time to go to a shelter if they don't evacuate. The Charleston Harbor will be closed at 10 a.m. National Guard, yes, 2,000 on duty, 3,000 on standby. We are receiving, like I said, multiple resources from other states who have offered help, but also FEMA is really stepping up and making sure that we have the pre-storm supplies that we need going forward to man the shelters and do all the things that we need to do, and then they will stay through the post-storm to make sure that that goes on as well. Our barrier islands, it's the biggest concern we have right now, is the fact that we need people to move. Daniel Island, they're not moving. We need you to consider coming up north. This is the time where you can evacuate. We need you to do this. The water that's gonna come in is gonna be dangerous. Defusky Island, we have 100 people on Defusky, and the last ferry left out at 6 yesterday, and there were still 100 people there. We did another ferry at 10:30 this morning. We do have National Guardsmen there and DNR there with boats and helicopters to lift people out. If you know of anybody on Defusky that is staying, it is gonna be underwater. So we have to get these people out, and it's very important that we spread that message. We are now in all of the areas where we are seeing could be possible really dangerous areas. We are either doing the reverse 911 calls, or we're going door to door to try and ask people to get out. This is what our law enforcement and county officials are doing as we speak, to try and get everybody to understand the seriousness of what is going on. We have 66 shelters that are open. That's one more than we had yesterday, but we have plenty more available, and there's a lot of availability in all of those shelters. We now currently have 2,882 residents in our shelters, which is up about 500 from yesterday. 674 staff members are on the ground in the shelters ready to help. We have adequate food supplies and backups as needed, so that's not going to be a concern. We just want to remind those that do go to the shelters that if you have a restricted diet, we may not be able to help you with that. So we want to make sure that you bring those appropriate things, as well as baby formula should you have to have that. As of 9 a.m. this morning, 104 medical facilities were evacuated. Beaufort Memorial will be evacuated by noon today. So again, when you see an entire hospital get evacuated, even if you were to have some health emergency, there is not going to be anyone there to help you, and that's something that we want you to think about. I want to thank especially our EMS professionals. They have transported thousands of people across the state to get them out of harm's way. And so, as we have said, again, if you see law enforcement, if you see guardsmen, if you see EMS professionals, I can't say enough about the people who have been on the ground doing the work, putting in the long hours, because they have really, they really deserve our utmost respect in that. We do have 4 open special needs facilities now, but we also have 4 more available should we need them. There are, one of the things we're proud of is that we have pet-friendly facilities, and so we want to make sure that people are using them. We told you we had 2 in the Low Country yesterday. We've opened another one in Spartanburg. If the reason you are not leaving is because of a pet, we've got plenty of space. You're not going to go in there to a cramped shelter. We have plenty of space, and want to make sure that we let you know that you know, animals, we want them to be safe too. There are places for you to go. Please heed those warnings and don't let that be the reason that you don't evacuate. Hotel availability is still spotty. We now have 2 hotels in Anderson that are available. We had 4 in Columbia open up overnight since they moved the game, so there are some Columbia rooms available. We have 3 in Greenville, and so certainly just know that if you go to Expedia or Airbnb, they have opened up a lot of other rooms there in Columbia and Greenville. Please go to Expedia or Airbnb and you can still find additional shelter resources. With that said, I want to say I can't say enough about the team behind me and those that are not here in terms of all the directors of the agencies working together, the cooperation everybody has shown. We understand the situation that is before us, and it is not a good one. This is the last time you will see me before we are actually in storm mode. So please evacuate, even if it's to a shelter. Even if you suddenly are sitting at home, we have shelters in Charleston and in every county on the coast that we can have and take care of you during this process. But we are now getting ready to see some really tough weather. We are preparing now with our utility crews, with our guardsmen and all local first responders on how we're going to do rescue relief efforts. We are prepared for more flood efforts like what we saw last year. So DNR is very much ready and positioned with boats ready to go and look at that. Everybody is already planning on what happens after the storm. I would ask you, if you are even in the Midlands areas, hunker down, stay home, stay out of this. We're going to see a lot of rain and we're going to see a lot of wind as well. So when you have that much rain, we saw a lot last year where trees come down and it becomes unsafe. So our goal is to try and make sure that we protect all the areas before people get out on the roads. And we just wish everybody Godspeed at this point. If you have any family members that have not evacuated, please call them. Family members, friends, anyone, please call them and make sure that they know that we still have bus transportation going to those shelters that can help them.